We're speaking with Kathy Swajian. Sorry, I'm not sure I want to use it.
Swajian.
Are we rolling? We're talking with Kathy Swajian, who is a new voter and delegate to the Republican Convention in Miami.
You know, I don't know what I'm getting into, so it's hard to... You're excited, but you don't know what's going to happen, so it's really strange. I didn't really have that much to do with the selection. I got a phone call in February saying to come down for a final interview that was going to be the last step in a process that had been going on for, I guess, the last couple of months. And they told me I had been selected, and, you know, there I was all of a sudden. I went yesterday to the platform hearing, and I think this really helped in my mind the type of subject that will be discussed in Miami.
Just mine up.
No.
The National Women's Political Caucus recognizes that women have a clear community of interest and that equality for women can only enrich the lives of all Americans. We call for a separate women's plank in the Republican platform as part of a massive national movement to bring women into the center of this country's social, economic, and political development.
On abortion, what kind of laws are you looking for?
We want repeal laws that are on the books now, so the woman has the right to choose.
All the way through, like the full 9 months, is that?
Right.
No person in the state of California, 18 years of age or older, shall be punished criminally or be denied any right or privilege by reason of such persons planting, cultivating, harvesting, drying, processing, otherwise preparing, transporting, or possessing marijuana for personal use, or by reason of that use.
I have one, Doctor. I believe you stated that 60% of those polled indicated that they thought that the use of marijuana led to the use of heroin.
That's correct.
And it is the individual that we zealously protect, often against government itself. And thus it is, I think, that nearly every Republican platform in recent years, really since the founding of our party, has stressed individual rights, the dignity, freedom, and self-respect of the individual, as opposed to the benefits that a more powerful government might offer its people.
What I ask you to consider on your platform is to consider some of these programs that are earmarked for supplementing some type of assistance to Spanish-speaking people throughout the nation.
Let me just preface the proposals by telling you the background.
There are about 300 sites that are scattered throughout the entire United States today. They range from, lighthouses in Michigan to large air bases like Port Hueneme down here in California. Alcatraz is another example of surplus properties within the system. The federal government owns 44.3% of the state of California. Many people are not aware of this. They own 63.9% of the state of Idaho, and an overwhelming 86.4% of the state of Nevada.
From what I understand, there's something special, right, about Indian reservations. The U.S. government cannot go in, right? I mean, that's their own territory. It's like the Vatican, right? It's something separate.
There is no liberty. There is no justice. Indeed, there is no life when one man is taken from his family, impressed into service, and killed in a foreign war, while at the same time his neighbor is never bothered at all. Such a system of military is an abominable contradiction for a country that calls itself free. The Republican Party has known for some time that the draft law is not in America's best interests. In its platform of 1964, the party pledged to end involuntary inductions as soon as possible by the use of an efficient and voluntary system.
By the same token, you can't depend on pills, and if you're a Republican, you can't depend on laws to legislate what a person does in private. You should know that, just as a good Republican, in terms of sound Republican.
He's not really advocating use. I don't think that's...
I'm just saying that, it doesn't help to treat people like criminals.
No.
No one will say that marijuana is harmless. No one will say that aspirin is harmless. So there's no conclusive proof that marijuana is harmless. But that puts the shoe on the wrong foot. If you're innocent until proven guilty, you don't want to tell somebody who's in jail for marijuana. Why am I in jail? Because we don't know enough yet. It's a very strange thing to tell anybody.
But this is the year for the Republican platform, to me, to really be liberal, because this is the year you can get away with it, and it would open up the party to so many more young people that aren't going to come by 76, you know. And I kind of think that this would be, I'd like to see it this year. But, you know, I don't know.
What they're trying to do legislatively is develop some standards which can be used by the courts to judge the different one busing situation from another, so that the courts don't go overboard.
How did you happen to become a delegate at such a young age?
The process that happens is that different Republican people in the state turn in lists of names of people they think are qualified.
See, I work for the state government now also. I'm working for the Republican Consultants, which is for Republican assemblymen in the legislature. We're their main work group. We do their press releases, speeches. We do their legislation.
Like student intern, which most young people probably have heard about. Washington has a program which I've participated in, and the state government has a program where they have you come up for 3 months, and it's really fun because you're not, you know, part of a full staff. You kind of have a lot of privileges. You can take off when you want and go hear a committee hearing, and you can go listen in on the floor. And you learn about everyone's job in the office, and then fortunately for me, I got a permanent job just a couple weeks ago with my office.
Hello, may I speak to Mr. Goss?
Hi, Mr. Goss, this is Kathy Swadgen. I work with the Republican Consultants. And I wanted to ask you about, I know you're the working with independent business, and we're interested in getting the views of the small businesses on the major legislation up before the state legislature this year. Okay, well, you speak about tax reduction and welfare reduction in general, you know, concerns of small business, but like, is there kind of a limitation on that? Because that could, you know, really go far. I'd have to have something more concrete than just general tax reduction. All right, I have a listing of some of the areas, so I'll kind of just, you know, see how your views on those. I like to be in charge of something, to get something done, and I think through politics I can.
I would like to idea which would waive all tuition costs to those individuals who are veterans, such as Vietnam veterans, and all those people who qualify as veterans.
They had the platform hearing on the educational caucus.
Should be waived at all University of College
One student got up there and spoke that he wanted to have the veteran exemption from tuition at state and universities in California, and then a black guy got up and said that he wanted to have more bicultural in both classes. And these things are real specific that you don't really put into a platform, but they were ideas that really, you know, I want the Republican Party to know about.
I feel that like I've said before, I think the tuition should be waived for these individuals who qualify for this.
Only had 20 minutes in there. Get this into form and...
Yeah, and I've got to take this up to Monaghan's office, so...
I'll have to go with you to have it, to get it in the proper...
Okay, you're starting with this. You have a little blurb you read.
Let me go with you and dictate it or indicate in which order it will be, because what we'll do simply is some of these should be put in other positions so that they'll be incorporated.
Oh, okay.
The two of them will be
so
incorporated.
We'll go over to Monaghan's office right now.
We'll do that then. I think we have a good platform and a good flank to offer.
Yeah, I think next time, but I'll start.
You want to take the initial statement?
I don't include your name again at the end, like respectfully submitted on the final copy, do I?
I don't believe so.
I don't have, do you have 1970s?
They approved it.
Oh, so it wouldn't be your name.
Well, Kathy, we've taken a lot of time from you because this is your job. I wish you a lot of luck, and maybe we'll see you in Miami.
Oh. Anyways, we're here now. I couldn't believe you know all those kids out there. That was fantastic. All the young voters. No, some of my old friends were there. Where are the went to the luau at the Americana. We were just starving, so the first thing we did was get in the line for food. They had really good food. They had all this kind of chicken and shrimp and roast beef. And then every table had these big pies. Julie Nixon and Tricia, and then their husbands, David Eisenhower and Cox, they were all there. They kind of walked in and they were kind of rushed around. So the security was really tight. We met some kids from South Carolina. Had a hassle. The South Carolina girl had met some, I don't know, some Wyoming guy, and so they seemed okay. You know, the trip worked out for them. That's all I remember mostly of that party because I was so hungry. When I walked up, I guess the Vice President was speaking right then.
I'm making that prediction on the basis that what young people want is going to sweep the young vote, and particularly the young vote in the universities. I don't think they really seriously consider the asset in youth that they call on. That asset is idealism.
After we ate, Agnew's speech ended. And everything kind of cleared up then. Had a rock concert for a while. That was pretty good, too.
Could you tell us about the caucus you attended earlier this week?
Right. The first day that I was here, I went to the National Women's Caucus, and it was Sunday at the Delegate Hotel. And Jill Rucklehaus is the chairman, and they all spoke about the ideas that they tried to put into the platform.
In the House of Representatives of 435 members, there are only 12 women. There's never been a woman's plank in the Republican platform before this year.
There is no more magnificent role on earth than that of a woman. Afraid sometimes to step forward and read. And it's a culturally conditioned thing, but it's kept us down. I think we've got to overcome our self-esteem problems, have confidence in ourselves, and move ahead.
We met a lot of the women candidates throughout the country. They were there, too.
From Teddy Roosevelt's old district, Jane Pickens Langley. It doesn't mention the father enough. Jane Pickens Langley is the woman who cares. Jane Pickens Langley is the woman who cares. So take good Pickens and vote for Langley is the woman who cares. Take Jane Pickens Langley. I'm sure that one of the reasons I was asked to run as a congresswoman is that I am a woman. But I've always enjoyed, especially a professional woman, and as a candidate, I'm enjoying it even more. But the one thing I'm really interested in is more women in Washington. I'm just as sure as I'm talking to you that if there had been more women in Washington through the years, we would find this country a very different place in which to live. Most of the issues that concern the women of concern all of the Americans. Because of the 5-minute limit that they've given me, I'm just going to touch lightly on 3. I'm for the abortion law because it protects the less affluent woman. No one has to have an abortion because there's such a law. I know I didn't. We have taken long steps during this past week because we took them together. Let's keep moving forward in the next 3 days to make sure that women are full partners at all levels of the party and that we are fully part of the legal, economic, social system of this country. We'll pass out to you the exact language and the changes that we hope that you will feel that you would like to make in that rule to absolutely commit this party to participation of minorities, of youth, of women, of all groups. I want to thank you very much for your enthusiasm this morning, for your criticism as well as your support.
You're a delegate. Good for you. Super, the most powerful person in this room.
As a female delegate, do you think you were heard in this convention?
Well, I know in the platform hearings and when I was in the state, I think I had much more emphasis there. This is too large of a gathering to really make your own personal statement. But I was glad to see that some of the women's planks got in there. I think that Obviously, with the have such a proportion of female delegates in '76, that there'll be even a greater emphasis on women's rights, and not just women's rights, but just opening up the party also to more young people. And I think in that way that I had an effect just being here.
Would you like to come in and sit down? Please sit here. No, I will be standing in a minute, so please sit down. Any persons in the room of African extraction, raise your hand. Okay. Now what I want you all to do. American Indian. Beautiful. American Indian, raise your hand. How many do we have?
And there's one over there.
Very good. Any persons of Oriental extraction, raise your hand. Any persons of Oriental?
Sometimes I've felt that when I spoke, they looked at me like, honey, you're so young, and I was offended by it. I realize that it's a big breakthrough for a lot of these people to have so many young people involved in the party, and we're stepping into their territory. But I also realize that this is much to be a delegate because there's a lot of other people that shouldn't have the chance. So if I'm going to say anything, I'm going to say it now, and I'm going to say it. Each morning started out with, my roommate and I were just really exhausted because you were out so late the night before, so started out with a cup of coffee and orange juice in the caucus room. And chairman of the delegation spoke to us and told us what was going to happen that day.
You were given some tickets, some pieces of cardboard. I guess you've all got them, so you've seen them, but they're all in envelopes like this. What counts? Those are your tickets for seats on the floor. As I talked about, the delegates must sit in exactly the seats specified. These tickets are most complex. These are the documents that count. You cannot get in the building without them. You cannot get inside the outer perimeter without them. And there's probably a lot of other things you can't do in town without it. Heavens only knows. But don't try. The bus will leave you off at the outer perimeter without tickets. Amongst the other things we need from all of you, I think we've collected them as you come in, and all that is your Social Security numbers. If you lose your ticket, that is a very tough situation, period. You can't get a new one. It takes absolutely an act of God to get a new ticket. The system is well designed. They're designed by members of the National Committee who have played this game themselves. As far as the actual procedures for getting in the gates, I would really urge your careful attention. We have adopted as the National Committee some very complex procedures if we get called on, because we are going to, in fact, renominate the United States here, no matter what happens. The various governmental agencies have made a complete bomb sweep of the building. There will be no packages, purses, large purses, briefcases, or anything else admitted without being examined. Avoid confrontations with the non-delegates. They are non-delegates. They are not hippies, yippies, zippies, or any other deprecating names. They are individuals who are expressing their constitutional right to disagree with our view as to how a country ought to be run. That there is very adequate law enforcement in Dade County to handle the problems. Please do not go out to Flamingo Park to see what you can find. Please do not get into shouting matches. Please treat these individuals courteously and civilly, no matter how impolite they may be and how inhospitable they may be to you. We may not have such problems, but should we, please do not aggravate them. These individuals are non-delegates. Just leave it at that.
I have nothing against any person who wants to demonstrate outside, the convention or anywhere. They're doing it and not causing any problems in terms of, personal danger. Yeah, I saw the passive demonstrators there that were just, weren't causing any problems. As long as they're not causing violence, there was some problems I understand from other areas of cutting tires or doing things like that. That I'm completely against.
This is the Nixon delegation of the primary. Any other individuals are most welcome to file papers. One other candidate did, one other candidate tried and not to. It's an open primary, and anybody who wants to file slate can do so. The President chose you individuals to run as his delegation. We will have reports by our committee members. The convention has 4 committees. Bob Naylor.
In New Mexico, Congressman McCloskey's challenge, the issue basically was initially whether New Mexico law had been violated. If you can give Congressman McCloskey a true McCloskey supporter as a delegate.
We will have a presentation by our representative on the Platform Committee, Congressman Vic Vasey.
Let me make a comment or two about the structure of the Platform Committee so that you may understand the context in which we operate. Every state has 2 representatives on the Committee on Resolutions, which is the Platform Committee.
Times that were, you know, really boring, just in terms of we had to go over, you know, things that had to go over. I mean, they just weren't that interesting, or some speaker who wasn't a great public speaker. There was a lot of times you're sitting there wondering, you know, how am I going to get out of here? There's other times when you're just saying, you know, wow, I can't believe I'm here.
And lastly, there will be a report by the Rules Committee. Just a brief word on that subject. I'm sure you all have read in the paper that the subject will be most energetically contested at this convention.
An appropriate measure that a party consider in awarding delegate strength to the states is electoral success. And what they were going to attack was doing the same thing in 76 that we're doing in 72. The way I think of it is 2 times EC plus a bonus.
You will undoubtedly be lobbied the instant you set foot on the floor. We may want to have an internal debate on the rules, in which case we will do so tomorrow.
Yesterday I was meeting Oklahoma to Colorado, and I've forgotten the other delegation. Well, this is my first chance here to meet with you, except for yesterday joining you on the floor. And it hasn't been because I've been taking a vacation down here, or cruising, or golfing, or just sitting around. It seems that there have been a number of chores that were a rude surprise to me. I had thought that when the convention was not held in San Diego and I was not the host governor, that this would be a that I could come to, and other than the session, that I would find myself lolling in the sun. The president had other plans. The president had some plans about a number of us as surrogates going to other delegations. What? Washington. The Washington delegation, thank you.
Were you impressed by Mrs. Nixon?
Yes, I was. She has a lot of class. She speaks in front of a crowd, and she doesn't get into a long, lengthy speech. What she says just, you know, really makes sense. And for the First Lady, I think she gives, you know, a tremendous plus to the ticket.
Proud to be here to say hello to you as well as to all Californians. In fact, we're going to be in California later this week for just a few days, and we can hardly wait. I can assure you that. I don't know whether Governor Reagan is around this morning, but didn't he do a marvelous job with the because this is a new, young delegation. I welcome all of you. I understand the youngest one is 21 years old. Is that right?
We look at her, I mean, she seems like a really nice lady. You can, seems like a person you could go up to and talk to for a while. She spoke to me with that whole mob around her. She was just really friendly. And so that was usually that's the way the mornings went, and then we were kind of rammed onto the buses, and it took over about, I don't know, a 30-minute drive to get over there onto the floor. California, for some reason, was always the first delegation there. You know, you're in that big auditorium by yourself for about 20 minutes while everybody filters in. And then the convention started.
Governor Ronald Reagan elected as temporary chair of the convention.
Freedom, integrity, and dignity are vital concerns of all Americans, whether they are young or old, black or white, man or woman.
Delegates, please take their seats.
There are many new voters to be located. There are many new voters to be registered. But with your help and your continued support, we will return votes.
1973 will be the year that the Republican Party is going to take over the United States Senate.
I think after this whole convention was over, you leave, or I left, kind of older and wiser, just because you see how it's all worked, and, you know, there are a lot of things that I thought I might, you know, would be different. Maybe I had a more idealistic view of it all, but those were kind of changed when I got here. The massiveness of this place, of all these people, that was kind of more than I anticipated. Also the fact that, you know, you've nominated a president here and then you just go back to your normal everyday life seems kind of different to me too. The reason working with this party is I think that, you know, there's room for change in both parties, and it'd be silly for all of us to go to one party and work in that one. I think if I can open up another area through my, you know, maybe more moderate views than theirs, you know, I'm gonna get in there and do it. This was something, you know, one selected 5 days, and we're all here together, and then we all go back to, you know, 50 states, and that's kind of a feeling of, you know, your roommate walks out and you go, bye, you know, had a great time at summer camp. You know, it's just like, this was something different, and it's hard to fit it back into the rest of your life. It's something that you did, and you'll always remember, and people are going to ask you about it, but you can't really tell them what happened. It was too individual and too, only, you had to be this, one of those things, you know, you had to be there.